World War II was finally over. Europe lay in ruins. Millions had lost their lives. Cities had been reduced to rubble. The world hoped that peace had finally arrived. But peace would not last. As one global conflict ended, another one quietly began. This time, there would be no official declaration of war. No massive armies charging across Europe. No direct battles between the world's two greatest powers. Instead, the battlefield would become politics, espionage, propaganda, technology, and thousands of nuclear weapons capable of destroying humanity. For nearly half a century, the United States and the Soviet Union stood face to face. Every crisis, every decision, and every mistake brought the world closer to nuclear destruction. This was the Cold War. Chapter 1. The World Divides. In 1945, Nazi Germany had surrendered. Japan had surrendered shortly afterward. The war was over, but Europe was left devastated. Two countries emerged stronger than all the others. The United States and the Soviet Union, although they had fought on the same side during World War II, they no longer trusted each other. The United States believed in democracy and capitalism. The Soviet Union believed in communism and a one-party state. Their visions for the future of Europe were completely different. Germany itself was divided into four occupation zones. Even Berlin, deep inside Soviet-controlled territory, was divided among the victorious Allies. The alliance that had defeated Hitler was beginning to fall apart. Chapter 2. The Iron Curtain falls. After the Second World War, Europe was no longer united. An invisible line began to divide the continent. In the West, countries rebuilt with American support. In the East, the Soviet Union tightened its control. Governments were replaced. Opposition was silenced. Free elections disappeared. Millions of people suddenly found themselves living behind a new political barrier. In 1946, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill gave this division a name. He called it the Iron Curtain. From the Baltic Sea to the Adriatic, Europe had been split into two rival worlds. One side embraced freedom and free markets. The other followed communist rule. Under Moscow's influence, the Cold War had truly begun. Neither side fired a single shot. Yet millions would spend decades living under the shadow of a divided Europe. Chapter 3. The Marshall Plan. Europe was starving. Factories had been destroyed. Railways were in ruins. Millions of families struggled to rebuild their lives. The United States feared that poverty and instability would allow communism to spread across Europe. In 1947, Secretary of State George Marshall proposed an ambitious plan. America would provide billions of dollars to help rebuild Europe. Western European nations accepted the offer, but the Soviet Union rejected it. Moscow also forced its Eastern European allies to refuse American aid. Europe was becoming divided, not only by ideology, but also by economics. One city would soon become the center of the Cold War. Chapter 4. The Berlin Blockade. In 1948, Berlin became the first great crisis of the Cold War. Although the city lay deep inside Soviet-controlled territory, its western sectors were controlled by the United States, Britain, and France. Stalin saw West Berlin as a threat. He wanted the Western Allies to leave the city, so he made a bold move. All roads, railways, and canals leading into West Berlin were closed. More than 2 million people were suddenly cut off from the outside world. The Soviet Union believed West Berlin would surrender within weeks, but they had forgotten one thing: the sky. Chapter 5. The Berlin Airlift. The Soviet Union expected West Berlin to surrender, but the city refused to give up. Instead of sending tanks, the Western Allies sent airplanes. Day after day, cargo planes crossed the skies bringing food, coal, medicine, and hope. Pilots flew through dangerous weather, day and night. Every few minutes another aircraft landed. The operation became known as the Berlin Airlift. For almost a year the planes never stopped. In the end the blockade had failed. Without firing a single shot, the West had won its first major victory of the Cold War. But peace would not last. A new weapon was about to change the world forever. Chapter 6. The Nuclear Arms Race. The Berlin Blockade had ended, but the rivalry had only grown stronger. Neither side wanted another war, yet both feared the other might attack first. The answer was terrifying: nuclear weapons, bombs capable of destroying entire cities within seconds. The United States already possessed the atomic bomb, but in 1949, the Soviet Union successfully tested its own. The balance of power had changed forever. Both nations kept building bigger bombs, longer-range missiles, and deadlier weapons. The world was about to live under the shadow of mutually assured destruction. Chapter 7. Mutually assured destruction. By the 1950s both superpowers possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy each other many times over. The goal was no longer to win a nuclear war. The goal was to prevent one from ever starting. If one nation launched its missiles, the other would respond immediately. Both countries would be destroyed. This terrifying balance became known as mutually assured destruction, or simply MAD. Fear had become the world's greatest weapon. But the Cold War was about to move beyond Earth. The next battlefield would be space. Chapter 8. The Space Race. The Cold War was no longer limited to Earth. The next battlefield would be space. Both superpowers believed that victory in space would prove their technological superiority to the world. In 1957, the Soviet Union shocked humanity. It launched Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite. For the first time, a human-made object was orbiting the Earth. The United States had fallen behind. A new race had begun, not for land or oceans but for the stars. The Soviets had reached space first. But one question remained. Who would reach the moon? Chapter 9. The Moon Race. Sputnik had changed everything. The Soviet Union had taken the first step into space. America needed a response. But simply reaching orbit would no longer be enough. The next goal was far greater: the moon. Both nations began investing billions of dollars into rockets, technology and science. Engineers worked day and night. New spacecraft were designed. New rockets rose from the drawing boards. Every success inspired hope. Every failure became international headlines. The race was no longer about space. It had become a battle for prestige, for technology, and for history itself. The race would soon produce a new hero. On April 12, 1961, one man changed history forever. His name was Yuri Gagarin. Chapter 10. The First Man in Space. The race was about to create a legend. On April 12, 1961, the Soviet Union made history once again. A young Soviet pilot named Yuri Gagarin climbed aboard Vostok 1. No human had ever left Earth before. Nobody knew what would happen in space. Would the human body survive? Weightlessness. Could a person even control a spacecraft outside Earth's atmosphere? Despite the risks, the countdown continued. At 9:07 a.m., the engines ignited. Within minutes, Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space. The world would never be the same again. America had lost again. But one promise would change everything. We choose to go to the moon. Chapter 11. Kennedy's Moon Challenge. America had fallen behind. The Soviet Union had shocked the world again. Many believed the space race was already over. But the United States refused to surrender. In May 1961, President John F. Kennedy stood before Congress with a bold vision. He challenged the nation to achieve what many believed was impossible: to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. Before the decade was over, it was the most ambitious scientific mission in human history. The challenge had been accepted. Thousands of engineers, scientists, and astronauts began working toward one destination: the moon. 8 years of failures, successes, and sacrifice would lead to one unforgettable day, July 20th, 1969. Chapter 12. Apollo 11. One Giant Leap. 8 years after President Kennedy's challenge, the impossible was becoming reality. On July 16, 1969, Apollo 11 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center. More than 500,000 people watched history begin. For 4 days the crew traveled through space. Their destination was the moon. On July 20th, 1969, the lunar module Eagle began its descent. The world held its breath. Then Neil Armstrong stepped onto the lunar surface. His first words would become immortal.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
For the first time in history, human footprints marked another world. The space race had reached its greatest victory, but its legacy would belong to all humanity. The Cold War divided nations and brought humanity to the edge of destruction. Yet it also inspired some of our greatest achievements. The first step on the moon was not only America's victory or the Soviet Union's defeat. It was humanity's victory.